Why do me and my partner see things so differently?
Yeah, we're going to get to that. First up is a review from iTunes called So Much Hope. The information, knowledge, and experiences you share are priceless. You give so much hope to a group of people that feel lost, alone, and stuck. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your transparency and effort to share with the rest of us. You do amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Mhm. Yeah. All
Um,
right. Why do we see the world very different?
well, I got to tell you, Ashlyn, sometimes my wife is crazy. um, and I mean, she'll like one time she was pointing to the east, like clearly east, and we have these mountains that are to the east, and she's
Very
like,
big mountains.
big mountains that are to the east of us. And she's like, yeah, to the south, and I'm like, the south? What are you talking about? The south? That is the east. Like that is always, I've always lived here on the Wasatch Front and the mountains are always east. And she's like, no, I swear that's south.
Did she accept your version?
Well, I was right.
Okay. Got the compass out and you proved her
Yeah,
wrong, right?
I needed to drive it home to her to show her how right I was. Um, No, but the reality is there's been several things, maybe daily things
Mhm.
where she sees things one way and I see things totally different, completely different. And in the past I really have tried to drive home how right I am, but I've learned something different and something really important. And that's that there's how many people in the world? 7 billion plus. There's 7 billion plus realities out there.
Nice.
There's 7 billion plus worlds out there. If you understand what I'm saying, because
Mhm.
everybody sees the world differently, and everybody interprets the world differently. So I know that's happened with you and Kobe, right, Ashlyn?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I remember in the beginnings, I think it was my shame group that I did, the shame resilience group, and she started talking about how we see the world. And I had never thought about that, and I don't know why, but I was probably 36 years old, and she laid it out like a here's the lenses. We're looking through binoculars, and I have this lens from my early childhood, and then I add another lens of, how my parents raised me, and then a lens of the religion I grew up in, and then a lens of where I went to school, and just lens after lens, just keep adding them. And my lenses are different than your lenses. They're different
Yes.
than Kobe's. They're different than my kids. They're even different than my siblings that I grew up right next to. And
Yes.
when I started to see that and visualize, okay, that makes a lot of sense why, especially in families, I can say, I had a great childhood, and a sibling can say, I had the worst childhood.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we came from the same place.
Right. I love the lens analogy because it's so just accurate. And what's interesting about it is depending on how I perceive something or interpret something is how I react to it. So I'll have certain emotions come up because of a trigger, something that has happened. I'll have emotions come up, which then lead to behaviors, which then lead to who I am and how I'm showing up in the world. So our perception and our lenses really dictate our experience of this life in this world. And one thing about being in relationships, whether it's a marriage or just a relationship with a friend or a parent or somebody, those relationships help you either get prideful and stuck in your perspectives,
Mm.
or help you open up your perspectives and challenge your lenses, because people come with different views of the world, right?
Yes, yes. See, I love that because I would say my lenses were pretty fixed for most of my life. I'm 41 today.
Uh-huh.
And as I started this process, I don't know that recovery is meant to unlock you and start to unravel, but it does. And
Right.
it did. It started to shift my lenses where I could still see through my lenses, but I could start to recognize, oh, the way I'm reacting and showing up is because of this, this, and this. And it's okay, but also I can show up differently. I don't
Yes.
have to just base my reaction on my little world over here.
Ashton, I love how you said that, because I believe that when we're able to become conscious, and when I say conscious, what that means is we're no longer stuck in our perspective. Rather, we realize that we have our perspective and we're able to say, that's one perspective and that's
Mhm.
mine, but I'm open to other perspectives. And it leads to freedom. It leads to love and connection, because when I can say, okay, I don't have to, like, I was caught in a lot of lenses when I was younger. Just this is the way
Mhm.
things were. And when I was able to challenge some of those things, some of those perspectives, and see the world a different way, I started to experience things differently. And with my wife, if I'm there and I'm saying, you better see things this way, you better see that as east, I'm prideful and I'm stuck. But if I take a step back and I try to understand her and understand why her lens is the way it is and why she thinks the way she thinks, then I can actually validate and empathize and understand her. I don't have to agree with what she's saying. Like, I don't have to say that as the truth, but I can say, oh, I do see why you see it that way.
Mhm.
And she's going to feel loved and cared about when I see that with her, right?
Yes, and you've always modeled that, I think, and I think broadening that lens and really being conscious and saying, "Hey, I'm going to be active in this conversation. I'm going to connect. I'm going to ask more questions rather than assume."
Yes.
And that's helped me to see, okay, you have more compassion for people. And I know that I have more compassion for people because I accept whatever truth theirs is with just that's their truth.
Right.
And it's okay. And I would say I used to be called super judgmental, super like I mean, it was black and it was white. And if you
Yes.
were in the middle, you were not you were not right.
Right.
And that my lenses were really fixed. And last night I went to something Jenny would have loved, your wife.
Uh-huh.
It was a full moon circle
Oh, that's
meditation.
awesome.
I know, I was like, I should have invited Jenny. But one of the girls, we just met that night and we were supposed to give each other feedback about what we see in each other. And it was so meaningful because she said, I can see that you are confident and whole in who you are and that you're not judgmental. You're open
Wow.
to people. And I was like, "Oh, I've worked so
Wow.
hard for that. Thank you
That's
so
like the
much."
biggest compliment.
It really was
Yes.
because coming from being told, 30 plus years of my life, you're so judgmental, you're so critical, you're so all these things. And then for someone to see me in, the first 1 hour say, this is who you are.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
You know, Ashton, to share one of my lenses, I was raised with this lens of the world is evil and the world is
Mhm.
bad, and be careful of the world because it's bad and evil. And so while I grew up, I saw how corrupt and evil and awful the world was, and it's confirmation bias. I'd gain,
Mhm.
I'd look for evidence of that, and that's what I saw. And in that, it led to being judgmental, judgmental of, oh, look at that, there's evil, look at that, there's evil. And I realized, when I grew up a little bit, like, I don't know if that's serving me. I want to be real that there's danger out in the world and there's bad things. That's true. But a blanket statement of the world is going to hell in a handbasket and it's evil, I'm going to actually believe the opposite. I'm going to believe that most people are good. I'm going to
Yes.
believe that the world is getting better in many ways, and that the world is good. And it was crazy when I just shifted that thought. I started to see all of the goodness of everybody, and it changed who I was showing up as in the world. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little example. I just want the more examples, the better, right? People can
yes.
start to see it, how it's showing up in their life. So when I'm scrolling social media, I'm an Instagrammer. I like that best. So it's pictures or it's stories, and you're just quick. I'm projecting or I'm basing, I'm giving my lens right there real fast, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
old me used to scroll. There was times I couldn't even be on social media because I would look at someone and immediately be like, ugh, they're so annoying.
Yeah.
Or
See, there you
I would
go.
be unhappy for them. I would um, be jealous. I would judge what they were wearing. I would judge. what their words were, without even really listening or looking at them. I just saw them with my lenses and projected my own narratives, like you said, these really rigid beliefs that I had, and all over them. Like, oh, and then I would say, I have to take a break from social media because I'm all projected out. I've
Yes.
judged everyone, and I
Yes.
feel crappy.
And you feel horrible,
Yes.
right? I want to bring this a little closer to home. Here's another example for you. Um, and like, hear me through on this one. So with addiction recovery, betrayal, trauma, one of the big problems is this lens that is given to people when they jump into therapy and kind of the recovery community, and it goes something like this: that the addict is just an addict and he's an abuser. He's the problem. He's just a horrible, awful human being, and he needs to change in order for everything to get better. And that lens is given both to the betrayed and both to the addict.
So true.
And so what happens is that starts to get reinforced. And as that gets reinforced, the relationship doesn't get better. He doesn't get better because he believes he's just an addict who's unworthy of love. And I realize that calling a spade is important. I realize that calling out denial and manipulation and bad behavior that hurts people, there needs to be boundaries there for the betrayed. I get that, but it doesn't serve the person struggling with addiction or the betrayed partner by having this lens of he's just a horrible piece of crap. And it does serve both of them to have compassion and love and belief in them as a human being, right? Do you understand what I'm saying, Ashlyn?
Yeah. And I think we all, at least for me, I started out with I'm so angry and he is the worst. And look at
Yeah.
I have so much evidence. Look at all this evidence, and I've been great.
Right.
And then I started realizing, actually, I was reacting a lot of my own stuff, right?
Right.
And it was a different process once we got out of you're a piece of crap.
Right. And I'm not saying his shiz doesn't stink, right? Like some of the stuff that he does, when I say he, I'm saying he in general. The addict, the person struggling with addiction does.
Yeah.
That sucks in relationships, and it's not okay. But it doesn't define them as their worth and who they are.
Right.
Right. And that, like, there's certain platforms out there and there's certain things that drive that belief home. And it keeps people stuck. And it's interesting, the betrayed partners that I've worked with, the ones that have experienced even the most horrific betrayal, the worst stuff, the ones that can get themselves to this place of, I'm not going to see him as a monster. I'm going to see him as a person who is hurt, a person who is sad and struggling, and somebody who wants to figure out how to love and be loved but can't. Like, yeah. I'm going to see that instead of the monster, right? Yeah. So,
well, one of the quotes that helped me best see that is hurt people. And yes. When I could see that, okay, this person who's hurt me deeply is projecting all of their hurt on me.
Right.
And so, if there's this conversation or argument of you're this and you're that and blah, 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 just sit and listen as if they're saying it to themselves. Like, I am this, right?
Yes.
Read that meme text they sent you as if they're saying it to themselves. It's right. Most of us, we project our hurt onto the world.
Right. But it doesn't mean that if somebody's just hurting and, you can have compassion for them and you can love them, it doesn't mean that you have to continue to jump in and put yourself in harm's way because you love them. You can love them and you can love yourself at the same time and have boundaries with them.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's one of the things. It almost feels like sometimes I need this lens of seeing them as a
Hmm.
monster so that I can protect myself. And
Yes.
the truth is you don't need that lens to protect yourself. You can have another lens that actually helps you move forward better, and you can still protect yourself at the same time.
Yes, well said. And that separation is important, right? Because
Yes.
otherwise we both stay stuck, or one of us moves forward and one of us stays in that place of anger or
Right.
rejection.
Don't confuse changing your lens to compassion and love with codependency and a lack of boundaries.
Yeah.
They're very, very different. And so when you change your lens and your perspective to see them as a human being, then hopefully you still see yourself as a human being who's worthy of love, who's going to stand up for yourself and have those boundaries.
Yes.
So,
Okay. So can I just say something? It's a little
yes.
off, but not because of this one thing. It's becoming mindful of our own lens and our own view and beliefs and stuckness in the world. That's why I feel this is the best worst club ever, because you start to associate yourself and surround yourself with these people in groups or in, your network
Yes.
becomes people who are quick to apologize and see their stuff. I'm realizing I'm projecting all over you.
Yes.
It's not this. I feel like when I had a misunderstanding with someone years ago, it was hold that grudge, hold it strong because
Yeah.
they're wrong
Yeah.
and they hurt me. Whereas now I can I can apologize in seconds, which blows my mind because young Ashlyn was like, nope, I don't even know how to say sorry. And you're never gonna get it.
But it's interesting, Ashton, as you say, the best worst club ever, because what I see, I believe recovery is the best worst club ever. um, but what I see is people that jump into doing recovery work, they go one way or the other, and they go toward being in the best part of that club, which is you have more acceptance for yourself and for others. You can actually challenge your own beliefs and
Mhm.
your own thoughts so that you can be free and you can create empathy and connection. Um, and you have strength. You've turned your will and your life over to the care of God. So you have faith, you have strength, you're able to surrender a lot of things. Those people thrive. I'm talking about recovery, right? But there is the other way that it goes, and it's if you hang on to certain lenses, and it's what I've been talking
Mm.
about earlier, which is, okay, now I'm in recovery by getting educated, but now I'm in this club with a lot of people around me who are reinforcing me as a victim and
Ah,
and reinforcing me as stuck and not able to move forward. So now, and you can fall into that club even if you're going to therapy and going to
yeah.
group, and like you can totally fall into that club as well, and you don't thrive. You actually go the opposite direction. And really it comes down to shifting one lens, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's not a
So
big thing. I like that. Okay,
yeah.
I bet you see this in your groups. I remember the first, Facebook group, which is a huge thing when I first found out that there were more people like me. Okay, that they were hurting just like me. There were these women with betrayal trauma. I joined this Facebook group, and at the first, it was great. People would just share, this is what's going on in my life, and people would
Right.
validate and send love, and you can do this. It soon became something different, and I would just kind of watch and go, this feels so icky. But somebody would share, hey, I'm so and so, this is my story. And I would see in the comments a lot of projecting of like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that happened to me. And this is da, 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 da. And it was not um giving them hope or understanding or even validation. It was just, yeah, and this is gonna happen to you too, because it happened to me.
It was just like hopeless.
Yes. And when I see, I run groups 3 days a week. And when that starts to happen, I have to rein it in. Like, that was your experience, but it doesn't mean that's gonna happen for anyone else in this group. Like,
Right.
rein it in.
Yes, with my betrayal groups, it's such an interesting thing because the pain needs to be validated, and
Mhm.
like the those who've been betrayed, they need to know that their pain is real and that someone else sees it and it's valid. But you can validate that pain and then still rein it in and say, okay, like now let's talk about your power and your ability to move forward despite what your partner's doing. despite the choices that they're making. And we can wallow here all together. We can all stay stuck
Mhm.
in this lens of I'm just a victim. We're all victims. We're all victims. And you have experienced horrible things when you've been betrayed. But there comes a point where your lens can either be I have no power because they can hurt
Mm.
me, or I have power and I can grow because I've been hurt, right?
Yes.
And that's the shift.
It is when I feel like I don't have choices. I've felt that before. and
Yes.
and it takes a minute to remember like, "Oh my gosh, I know how to do this. Wake up. Get out of
Yeah.
your little lens and find your choices because we all have them."
We are powerful beyond what we understand. Every human being, and most of our power, it's within our thoughts and our beliefs, and we have the ability to choose what we want to believe, to choose what we think. And horrible things happen to people. It's true, but some of the people who have had the most horrible things happen to them have come out the strongest and have done the most with those things.
Mhm.
And so it's just a matter of challenging that hopelessness, challenging that fear, challenging the stuckness, and being able to work through that.
Yeah, I love this. And I hope that our listeners can, listen in today and in their own head and see what those lenses look like just throughout the day, as we parent, as we're friends, as we're at the grocery store, wherever, how it shows up.
That's our challenge to you. If you're feeling angry, depressed, like for example, driving here this morning, some guy was tailing me and he was like mad at me, and I don't know what I did, to be honest with you. I don't think I did anything. But I can think what a jerk he is, or I can challenge that perception and think something else about him. Maybe he's in a hurry because he's a good father who needs to get somewhere for his daughter or something. I don't know what's true or what's not, but I don't need to think that he's a jerk.
Yeah.
Um,
You
so
see
that
more good.
yeah, I
I
can
love
see
it.
good. I can try to see some good. That let's challenge our audience. When you feel those things and you feel some of that emotion come up, take accountability, responsibility for it, and challenge some of your lenses. And don't judge your partners. Let them have their perspectives. You can see their perspectives with them as well. And that's it for today, Ashlyn.
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon. And thank you guys for listening.
All right, see you
Bye-bye.
guys.